Yeah, this is a continuation of the anatomy videos, and this one will be the start of the blood supply of the gastrointestinal tract. We'll start by the celiac trunk, which is the first artery supplying the foregut part of the GIT. The blood supply of the GIT is done by three arteries. One for the foregut part, which ends at the middle of the second part of the duodenum. That is the celiac trunk supplying the foregut. That is the superior mesenteric supplying the midgut, which will start from the end of the foregut down to the junction between the right 2/3 of the transverse colon with the left third. The third artery is the artery of the hindgut, which is the inferior mesenteric artery, starting from the last point to the junction between the upper 2/3 and the lower 1/3 of the anal canal. These are the three arteries: the celiac at the level of the upper border of the first lumbar, superior mesenteric at the level of the lower border of the first lumbar, while the inferior mesenteric at the level of the third lumbar vertebra. Let us start by the artery of the foregut, which is the celiac trunk. In that specimen here, we can see the trunk of the celiac artery, which arises from the front of the abdominal aorta between the two crura of the diaphragm, behind what we call it the arcuate ligament connecting the two crura to each other. This artery will be almost at the upper border of the first lumbar, as they said, and all the celiac trunk and its branches, the three of them, are behind the lesser sac. So that artery is surrounded by a celiac plexus of sympathetic nerves, which will extend through its branches to the organs supplied by these branches. There is two celiac ganglia on each side of the main trunk. It lies above the upper border of the pancreas. The pancreas is a bit dragged down, but this artery is along the upper border of the pancreas and on the right side of the cardiac end of the stomach. That is the cardiac end of the stomach. On each right side will be the right crus of the diaphragm, the right ganglion, and the caudate process of the liver, while on the left side will be the other ganglion on the left side, the left crus of the diaphragm, and the cardiac end of the stomach. Below it will be the upper border of the pancreas. That is the relations of this artery or of the main trunk. Now, the branches of this celiac trunk are three. That is the left gastric, the splenic have been seen in the previous slide, and we'll see it again, and the common hepatic artery. So there are three main branches: splenic, common hepatic, and left gastric. Let's start by the smallest branch, which you can see here. That is the left gastric artery, which will pass upwards behind the cavity of the lesser sac, as the others three will do, other two. Reaching the upper border of the lesser sac, it will curve downwards and to the right between the two layers of the lesser omentum along the lesser curvature of the stomach. Here it will end by anosmosing, as we can see here, with the right gastric artery branch of the common hepatic artery. Its branches will be to the esophagus, esophageal, and along the lesser curvature to the stomach. That is the first branch. The second branch is the splenic artery, which you can see here. It is a large branch, a tortuous in its course, lying along the upper border of the pancreas, behind the lesser sac at the others. Then it will cross in front of the left suprarenal gland and the upper end of the left kidney. That is the lower end of the left kidney. So it will cross the suprarenal and the left kidney, then pass between the two layers of the lienorenal ligament with the tail of the pancreas to end in the hilum of the spleen. That is the course of the splenic artery. Along its course, it will give some branches, which are the short gastric to the fundus of the stomach, and those short gastric will pass through the gastrosplenic ligament to supply the fundus of the stomach, anastomosing with the left gastric and left gastrooblique. That is the left gastrooblique and the left gastric. This short gastric will anastomose these branches. As it crosses on the upper border of the pancreas, it will be supplying the pancreas by pancreatic branches. The details of these branches will be dealt with when we describe the pancreas. Then its terminal branches will be in the hilum of the spleen within the lienorenal ligament around the tail of the pancreas. These are 4 or 5 branches. To do splenectomy, you have to ligate those branches and to take care not to ligate the tail of the pancreas, which is the common mistake with surgeons. So it is important to avoid this thing, which is a dangerous procedure. That is the splenic artery. Other branches will be the left gastrooblique, which we have seen it coming here along the greater curvature of the stomach. Reaching the greater curvature will be along the along the gastrosplenic ligament with the short gastric, and then along the greater curvature between the two layers of the greater omentum. Then it will continue along the greater curvature to end by anastomosing with the right gastrooblique, this artery which comes from the gastroduodenal artery of the common hepatic artery. That is the left gastrooblique, which anastomoses. You can see it over here along the greater curvature, anastomosing with the right gastrooblique. The last branch is the common hepatic artery, and that one will arise like the others from the celiac trunk deep to the lesser sac. Then it will be directed downwards and forwards to the right side to pass in front of the opening of the lesser sac, enter the free border of the lesser omentum, which is the anterior boundary of that foramen, in front of the portal vein. It will be anterior to the biblical foramen, having the bile duct on the right side, and still anterior to the portal vein to reach the porta hepatis, where it will divide into 2 branches, a left branch and right branch to the corresponding lobes of the liver. Its branches are the right gastric artery, that one which we have seen coming to enter between the 2 layers of the lesser omentum along the lesser curvature, and then end by anastomosing with the left gastric, supplying the both surfaces of the stomach, the anterior and posterior, along the lesser curvature. One of its main arteries, or you can say important artery, is the cystic artery, which arises from the terminal right branch of it, and then it will cross in front of the neck of the gallbladder. From the neck, it divides into 2 branches, superficial and deep, to the gallbladder itself, supplying it. The terminal branches are the right and left branches of the common hepatic, as we said, to the liver. The second branch is the gastroduodenal artery, which we can see over here. It arises above the first part of the duodenum, then descend between the second inch of the first part of the duodenum and the neck of the pancreas, lying on the left side of the common bile duct and in front of the portal vein. It will divide into two branches: the right gastroepiploic artery, which is this branch here, and the superior pancreaticoduodenal artery. The right gastroepiploic will pass along the greater curvature of the stomach between the two layers of the greater omentum to end by anastomosing with the left gastroepiploic artery, while the superior pancreaticoduodenal will descend between the head of the pancreas and the duodenum. As it goes in that groove between both structures, the duodenum and the pancreas, it divides into anterior branch and posterior branch, one anterior to the head and one posterior to the head of the pancreas, and then end by anastomosing with the two branches of the inferior pancreaticoduodenal, which are also anterior and posterior branches. The pancreaticoduodenal, the superior one, will supply the foregut part of the duodenum with the head of the pancreas, while the inferior one will supply the foregut, the midgut part of the duodenum and the head of the pancreas. That is the branches of the common hepatic artery, which are the right gastric, the gastroduodenal, the terminal right and left branches. The right will give a cystic to the gallbladder. Let's have an overview of all the structures seen in that cadaveric specimen, together with the celiac trunk, which you have seen, giving the left gastric, the splenic, and the common hepatic. Branch of the common hepatic, the gastroduodenal, which is anterior to the neck of the pancreas. That is the pancreas here, the head of the pancreas. That is the neck of the pancreas. That is the superior mesenteric vessels passing in front of the unsnake process of the pancreas, an extension from the head deep to these two vessels. That is the body of the pancreas. That is the tail of the pancreas. That is the spleen here. That is the liver with the caudate process. Here we can see the free border of the lesser omentum anterior to the epiploic foramen here, with the three structures in the free border, which on the left side the common hepatic, on the right side the common bile duct. Deep to them is the portal vein, which you can see it here, posterior to the common hepatic artery. You can see this first part of the duodenum, the second part, the third part, and the fourth part, ending with the duodenojejunal flexure. That is the duodenojejunal flexure here, and that is the jejunum, the beginning of the jejunum here. As we said, that is the superior mesenteric artery, superior mesenteric vein. That is the left colic flexure, which is very close to the spleen. The descending cone will be here. That is the right colic flexure or hepatic flexure, which is very close to the liver. That is a good specimen showing with this upper part of the abdominal cavity. Thank you for your attendance and listening, and see you in other videos.